With over 400 celebrity interviews and tons of pop culture nerdiness, Too Opinionated is a safe haven for your inner geek. Find us at meistercon.com or on YouTube under MeisterCon Pod. And please subscribe. It would really help us out. Thanks, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. So excited today. I've got actor Adolyn Dar with me. So welcome, Adolyn.
Hey, everyone.
We've been working on this one for a few weeks.
A couple of weeks now, yeah.
We've had to reschedule a couple of times. The first one was definitely my fault.
Fine, I'll take the blame for the second one. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you hanging in there with me because I was excited to talk with you. I loved you on The Expanse.
Thank you.
You were Private Jed, was that it?
Private Jed? Private Jed TREPP. Yeah, the intrepid Jed TREPP. Yeah.
I was a big fan of the books, and I thought the series did a really good job of condensing all of those, books and the material down into whatever it ended up being, what, six
seasons, something like that.
Seasons. Yeah. And I thought they did a pretty good job with that, and it was a good cast.
Oh, incredible cast.
Yeah, but I thought you fit right in there with them. You did a good job.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, a TV series of that magnitude is something they always say it's a moving train and you got to jump on, and then hopefully you don't have to jump off. But yeah,
it's tough sometimes for those science fiction shows to find their footing, which is probably why they switched from Sci-Fi Network, which does a great job like getting the shows on the air, not as good a job as keeping them on the air. So then
I know it's tough, but the fans are so devoted, right? Yeah. If you've seen Firefly, I was a huge Firefly, Battlestar Galactica fan. And then The Expanse was like a dream after watching those shows, being like, I get to be on one of these. Like it's a dream come true.
Good. That's pretty good. Yeah, I was looking forward to the Battlestar Galactica reboot they were doing for Peacock, but then 2020 happened and we still haven't got it yet. So I don't know if it's still coming or if that got scratched with.
Did you ever watch the prequel? What is it? It's not.
Is it Blood and Throne? Maybe.
It's like a Dama story, the captain story.
Yeah, I did watch that.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see that.
Yeah, it was good. It was really good. I thought all the stuff they've done Battlestar Galactica wise has been really strong. It's just time to get something new out there. Let's bring it back. Of course, I was a big fan of the 70s show, and the comparison there, you can't really compare those eras because of the special effects, but
yeah,
I enjoyed it growing up. It was all we had outside of going to see Star Wars.
Yeah, or Star Trek. It's Star Trek.
Well, we definitely had Star Trek, and I'm a Trek fan. So
100%.
Yeah, for sure. So Adolyn, let's start this way. Tell me a little bit about what got you into acting, because I know you had a little bit of an interesting journey getting there. So, what got you into acting? What made you want to become an actor?
So I have a little bit of a typical immigrant story when it comes to the arts, which is always wanted to do it, always loved to do it, but didn't necessarily have the opportunities. But in elementary, junior high, I was the class clown. I was the loudest speaker. My mom has a story of apparently when I was born, the nurses would know which baby was crying because I was the loudest. And so apparently I liked attention.
Actor.
Yeah. Like that's the one. Put him on stage. And so I didn't really think it was possible to have a career in it. I didn't even know you could have a career in it. I didn't know it was a thing. So I did my own thing. I would audition for plays here and there. I would just kind of do some school stuff. Nothing really panned out. Did some drama in high school, went to university, got a degree in the sciences. Got to keep the pattern going. Worked in the mental health field. And while I was doing that, I was an improv geek. And shout out to all my improvisers out there.
I've got a lot of respect for improv. That's not as easy as it looks.
Oh, no. And we try to make it look easy, but it takes a lot of years of practice just to get comfortable up there. And so while I was doing that, I was just kind of in it. And no worries.
All right, so we froze up for just a second there. So yeah, just finish that last thought again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the last thought was you don't necessarily know where to begin. The whole field feels like you're improvising one step at a time, and that's kind of what I did. Eventually talked to the right people, told me I could get an agent, got an agent, and then I was like, oh my gosh, you can make a career out of this. I mean, easier said than done, obviously, but to know that I'm able now to, pursue this, that this is the goal, that feels like almost a stroke of luck in some ways, because but I had to put myself out there. And I had to ask. I had to look ignorant and stupid and just ask, like, what do I do? Where do I begin? What's that? And you have to ask enough people enough times until finally someone gives you the right direction.
That's right. I mean, that's what holds a lot of people back. Is just that fear of having to ask, and they think they're going to look poorly or look like they don't know what they're doing. But that's how you get started. You got to ask questions.
Yeah, and most people, and perhaps trying to save your heart in some ways. Most people will discourage you in some ways. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but you tell someone like, "Hey, I want to be an actor. How do I make a career out of it?" And they're like, "Oh, well, that's very like, you want to win the lottery? Is that what you're saying? Because you might as well just win the lottery."
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to have a lot of like internal drive and confidence to be an actor, like an actual working actor, because it is so difficult, which I think is why a lot of actors will try to discourage you from trying. It's almost like a way to gauge if you're really committed to
Exactly.
it. But you have to be if you're going
to. Exactly. It's like if you can't pass that first obstacle, the other, you're not even going to stand a chance against the other ones that come up. And this whole industry is about picking your pain, right? It's just if you picked your pain, then that's fine. You could tolerate that. If you can't, but that's I forgot who it was. The guy who wrote How to Not Give a F, I think it was, wrote an article about. He was like, I had to pick my pain. I wanted to be a musician, but I didn't want to lug my equipment in a van and go play bar after bar after bar. That's not my pain. But my pain is sitting in front of a blank sheet of paper and trying to come up with an article or a story or something. That's my pain. And so I think acting's like that too. You have to love the process. You have to love the pain in some ways as well.
Yeah, you kind of got to embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Was People of Earth, was that like the first big break, or was there some stuff before
that? So I did a short film before I became unionized, which was called A Great Guy, and I think that for me was shout out to Adrian for choosing me. That was probably my biggest, like, oh, okay, I can do this. Like, go into an audition, you show your stuff, and then you get this opportunity to play the lead in a short film that did pretty well. I got some pretty fun reviews on it. It was just a silly little thing, but it had heart, and that's how it starts, right? It's a bunch of people with heart coming in and going, let's make a movie. But People of Earth, I would say, I guess, was my closest to. I still haven't achieved it yet, but my closest to wanting to work in comedy. So I started in improv, and working with people who either wrote or worked on shows like The Office or that sort of a docu comedy style was just kind of really fun, really awesome. So yeah, that was kind of that started a trajectory, and then things started to snowball from there. Once you get that, like, that's how the industry, once you get that like a slight bit of recognition, slight bit of something, they're like, okay, we can bring them back, we can audition them for some more stuff.
No, it's so frustrating. You have to get somebody to take a chance on you, which is why most people start with shorter films or that type of little thing just to get their feet wet. But then once you're in something, then it does give you kind of that leg up, because they're like, oh, well, okay, so we know he's going to show up and do his job. So we don't have to worry about the professional side of it. Now
exactly.
We if he's the right
and that's like 90% of the battle is, can you just stand still in front of millions of dollars of production and just say your lines? Forget about the acting. Can you just do that? And they're like, yeah, okay, you can do that. Great. Now we can do the acting.
Now we can do the acting part.
Yeah.
So the new movie, which has been making, I think, the festival rounds, is DESI Standard Time Travel, which is the best title.
Exactly. Another sci-fi film. I'm just got to keep racking them up. Yeah.
Well, you get enough of those, and then you can make a living just going to conventions.
That's the dream. That's the dream. I was just talking to a friend of mine who was like, I think someone's trying to get me to go to a convention in China, and they're willing to pay everything. And I'm like, I'll take a trip to China to do
Yeah,
conventions. That's the best. Why not?
why
Yeah, and
not?
fans are lovely. So yeah,
Yeah, it's not a terrible way to spend a weekend. It's
no,
tiring, but it's not a
no,
terrible way to spend it.
no, not at all.
Yeah, not too bad. So what is DESI Standard Time Travel about? What's your role in it?
So I play the lead character, and the
Yeah.
story revolves around Imran. That's his name, and it's an opportunity for him to go back in time to have one last conversation with his dad to end things on a better note because his dad has passed away in the present.
Yeah.
But the joke is because Desi people are never on time, the time machine doesn't send him back to right before his dad was about to die. They send him back way back in the past, way too far.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're never on time. And so now he's getting to meet his dad the same age that he is. And it's a whole, it's a whole story after that.
Yeah, I love that because a lot of us have those little kind of hanging threads, especially with family members, that have passed. If you didn't get that chance to say goodbye, or you maybe you were fighting at the time and something happened. We'd all like those moments where we could go back and kind of make changes. But in this case, I'm guessing it goes a little awry. It doesn't go as smoothly as they would like.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like, first of all, to your point, it's so heartbreaking to think that some of the reasons why you may never talk to some family members is something probably so innocuous that probably didn't mean anything 10, 15, 20 years later.
That's right.
And I think what this film does is a good job is you get to go meet your parents. Imagine meeting your parents the same age that you are now and asking yourself, are you going to be that different? Would you be friends with each other? What kinds of things did they not tell you about their life? And what the story does really beautifully is like most South Asian men, we don't have maybe necessarily the best relationship with our fathers. That's a stereotype and a generalization. I get that.
Sure.
But there's so many things about your relationship with your father that you probably really got along with if you could just talk to each other or get past the I'm the father-son sort of relationship. Right. And so he meets his dad without any of those titles between them because his dad doesn't recognize him. He doesn't know. And so they just meet as like two friends, and that's a really interesting, and I thought a nice twist on, the going back in time trope.
I'm guessing that your character hasn't been born in the past yet, so there's not like a baby you rolling around. You're
actually
before that.
No, yes, yeah, he hasn't been born yet, but he does meet his mom, who is pregnant.
Oh,
yeah. That's how you get around with.
That's where it gets kind of complicated.
Yeah. Well, you have to have you have to suspend disbelief when you watch time travel movies.
Well, as a sci-fi fan, I've watched a lot of them, read a bunch of that stuff, and they always confuse me because it's so, if you go back in time, just going back in time, you've probably changed something.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
You just don't know how big of an effect it's going to have.
Yeah. And this production was great because the director really let me kind of go loose, going back to improv, let me improvise lines and just kind of play. And I actually bring that up in a moment that was unscripted that did make it to the final cut, which is, me starting to improvise. Like, what kind of time travel are we talking about here? Avengers, Back to the Future, two very different kinds of time travel, and so absolutely. You have to just pretend like, okay, this is it. As long as it makes sense within the film, that's fine.
That's right. Sometimes you don't need to look super close at how it's happening. Just kind of enjoy what's happening.
Yeah. It is a story at the end of the day.
Yeah. So it's been making the festival rounds, which is I think a pretty great way to do that. If you've ever been to a film festival, they're a ton of fun. But it's doing pretty well, from what I understand. Is the plan to release that, kind of to everywhere at some point?
Yeah, I mean, that's the hope. It is doing really well. I mean, it only started about halfway through last year, or in the latter half of the year anyway. So there's still quite a few festivals. It's going to kind of make the circuits this year as well. A couple more in Toronto, some more in the States. We just did our LA premiere. just about a month ago, which was really well received. And
did you red carpet it? Did you get to
I did
dress
get
up?
to go. Yeah, I got dressed up, made some great connections, saw some amazing other films by some amazing other creators. Like it really makes you feel appreciative of the art of it, because whenever you go to film festivals, it's people who have put their like heart, soul, and probably their like investment or retirement fund into their movies. And so there's a lot on the line. And so
there's a lot at stake.
Yeah, but there's a buzzing energy to it that feels just amazing. And yeah, the film's been really well received. It's won a whole bunch of awards. I've been nominated and luckily been at some leading awards and stuff like that too for it. But what's really cool about it to me is that the comments that the audience members will leave at the end on Letterboxd or messaging me directly or the director, and a lot of people will say that it's like they're like, I'm gonna call my parents right after watching it, you know, like that. And that's like beautiful. Like that's what matters.
That's great.
Yeah.
Does it have some comedic elements to it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It'll definitely make you laugh and cry in a solid short. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited to see the father-son dynamic, because that's one, you know, we've all dealt with at some point.
Yeah.
And chances 100%. Are the dad dealt with it with his dad.
Yeah, and that's what's beautiful to see about it is he gets to ask him about his dad's relationship and together. And there's some beautiful moments. And Ali Kazmi, who plays my father, is an incredible actor, and we just immediately had like just chemistry on set, and so we were able to riff and play. And there's some really solid comedic moments as well. You can't put the two of us together in a film and not something funny happen.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's pretty great. Did they let you improv a little bit?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, I added in a couple lines about the time traveling and a couple of other things. And there's lots of different versions of it, because when you're doing a short, you're still trying to figure out the tone you want to get more material than less, right? More. And so we definitely did takes where I got to be more funny. And then we definitely did takes where they're like, let's make it really grounded and more dramatic. And then in the editing room, you know, that's where the magic happens to determine how much or how little of what we're going to add. So absolutely. But
I know if you had an editor that wasn't very good, it could totally derail a really good movie. Thankfully, most of the time, the editing in movies is just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays
you see one, you're like, who put that together?
Yeah. I think that's unfortunately or fortunately, that's the where a lot of things maybe don't turn out the way directors wanted it to. When you see examples like what is it, the Justice League movie and things like that. There's a Zack Snyder cut, you know, and you're
did like, wow. Did you watch both versions?
Yeah,
like,
I did.
Yeah, I did too. And the Snyder cut I thought was better.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it fleshes out a lot of things that were missed. I think the challenge is, I think the challenge with any story is the story you want to tell, and then the story, obviously, when you're making big budget films, is the story that's going to sell. And you're not always going to get it right. Like, but I'm a huge Batman fan, so I had to watch both. And to me, I'm just always appreciative that we're still, you know, writing stories about comic book characters. Like,
me too.
That's the geek in me. So I don't want that to necessarily stop, but I also like it and appreciate it when people are taking risks, because the Marvel formula, it's the Marvel formula, but it's nice to see like, other stories being told too.
I'm excited to go see Flash this week and see Michael Keaton back in the bat suit. I think that'll be even if the movie's not any good, it'll still be worth it just to see.
It's the nostalgia factor alone. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I owned a couple of comic book stores back in the 90s. That's how I put myself through school. So I'm a big comic book guy. I still read them. You know, that's a big part of why my son and I started this podcast, was kind of to share the geeky stuff. So I still get excited about that, because, you know, we were very limited when I was growing up on what we got comic book related. You had a little bit on TV and occasionally a so-so movie, but nothing like what we get now. I mean, it's not just Marvel and DC. It's all these other companies.
The TMNT movies coming out. Yeah. You probably know all about how that didn't even start off as like a happy-go-lucky kids show, right?
Oh, no. No, it was a black and white comic, and it was pretty violent.
Yeah, it was a horror in some ways, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, it really was.
yeah,
Yeah, my son is a big fan, and my best friend from school growing up was way into those. So they're both excited about the new one coming
yeah,
out here in a few months. And they
yeah,
always get that way. And sometimes they're disappointed. Sometimes they think it's done pretty well. That's just how fans are.
yeah,
But just
exactly.
having the option to go see it, pretty great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, not bad at all. You had an appearance on Superman and Lois.
I did. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That was
I mean,
really
that's pretty
cool.
great. I mean, you're technically in the DC universe.
I know. There's a little wiki on me. Just like the Expanse has a wiki on me. So yeah, that was a really amazing experience because I watched the DC Universe TV shows,
Yeah,
the
me too.
Flash, the Arrow, and I got to work with Diggle, who plays or David Ramsey, who plays Diggle on the Arrow.
Yeah.
And I watched like all seasons of that, being like, this is. And
Well, it's the one that started that whole, they're kind of ending most
yeah,
of them now, but it started everything was Arrow.
yeah, exactly. And incredible that you go from being an actor to now directing episodes of a whole new, with a spin-off in the same universe, but a whole new and a huge show like Superman and Lois. That's not the Superman ethos is a big responsibility, and it was amazing working with him. And he was my character plays, it's a lot of emotional, like the whole audition was just like, can you scream and be afraid? And I'm like, yes, yes, I can.
Yes.
So yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool. I'm chipping away at it. So I've done little bits, and I'm hoping I can keep working my way up and finally get a Marvel credit or two. That would be nice. And keep staying within that comic book geekdom, sci-fi.
Right. I mean, you're in there, so when they look, they're like, well, he's already done that type stuff. We know he can do it.
Hopefully they're not like, but he did DC. I don't know if we can,
Yeah, you got to get a Marvel.
Not Josh Brolin. Yeah, I got to get Marvel. That's the bingo. That's the bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? Geek bingo. That's what we.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Got a sci-fi one. Check.
Yeah, yeah. Sci-fi, DC, check. Superhero check. Now I need creature, monster of some sort. That would be amazing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, throw in fantasy too. My gosh, that would be the next level. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, Wheel of Time still putting stuff out. So's the Rings of Power or Rings of
Power. Yeah, Wheel of Time.
There's some good ones out there.
Robert Jordan's work. I just don't know how to get those. We don't have a lot of Canadians auditioning for those, I don't think. But we need to
change that.
We need a petition for that. Yeah, absolutely. We don't
want to discriminate against our Canadians.
Why does New Zealand get the capita on mountain travel? Look at our mountains here, right?
That's right.
So yeah,
there's mountains in other places in the world.
Exactly.
I wanted to ask you about Fat Lady Sriracha.
Okay.
So what is that one
about? Can we actually pause that one?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So my daughter told me that you had an appearance on Good Sam. That's one of her favorite shows.
Oh, really?
And I always play that game with the kids, like, hey, this is who I'm having on. What have you seen them in? And that's what she said. She's like, I'm pretty sure he was on Good Sam. So I'm taking her word for it because I don't know.
Oh my gosh, that's like you're doing your research. Well done. That little tidbit. Not many people know that. Yeah.
Well, I trust her because normally she'll tell me if somebody's been in a Christmas movie because she doesn't have a ton of shows that interact with geeky stuff. That's not her. But the shows she watches, she knows. So I trusted her on that. She said you played
Good Sam. Sophia Bush, Jason Isaacs, and then little old Adolyn Dar. I had a very brief appearance on Good Sam. I had just moved back to Toronto after being at BC, just finishing up Superman Lois, all of those things. And then it was one of my first auditions that I did here with a brand new agency and everything like that. And was lucky enough to get booked, and it was awesome. I mean, get to be playing a doctor in the emergency room with Sophia Bush, who I watched on One Tree Hill, and of course, the esteemed Jason Isaacs. Like, it was a master class in acting. That's what it
Love
was.
Jason Isaacs. He is an excellent actor.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I saw it as. I had a very small role. I'm surprised she even recognized me. I think I barely made it in the final edit. But
said she was pretty sure you were a doctor. Now she didn't say that.
I was
100% say, but she's pretty sure. So
no, she hit the nail on the head. That's a bright future in research.
Probably the hair. That's probably what.
Yeah. It's like, I'm going to recognize that hair. Yeah.
I think that was him. Yeah. So if you're not acting, do you have any ambitions to get behind the camera, directing, writing, that type of thing?
Great question. My first love in the arts was writing.
Yeah.
And I do that on the side as much as I can. I've actually had the opportunity to try to produce, direct, and write a short film I did a couple of years ago, just to kind of get practice and see what the other side. I definitely am not interested in being a producer. I've done it a couple times. It's not my...
A lot of work.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of paperwork. And I can be organized, but I prefer not to be. That's how I tell people. Like, it's too much effort sometimes to be organized when you can just live your life more freely. But I'd love to write. I'm currently working on a children's book that I just finished up, and I'm just getting the final edits on it. Yeah. So I'm hoping to turn that either into a fully published children's book, it's in talks right now, or maybe a short animation, which is what I really envisioned it as. But sometimes you got to have the book before the animation.
That's right.
We'll see.
That's pretty great though, being a published author. I mean, that's a
we'll see. Yeah. Not yet. We'll see. There's lots of routes you can take it. The problem with fully publishing it is, and this is the kind of dialogue, is the intellectual property of the material, which you probably know in the comic book world. Things change hands all the time. Didn't Spider-Man just go back to Disney or something like that?
They just got him back.
So I'd love to write, and I'd love to continue to do that. And in this industry, you have to kind of write for yourself as well, and write roles for yourself, or at least show that you understand that part. And then I'm hoping, just like Dave Ramsey was able to do it, where you act, get some really good work, build some trust, and then they go, hey, why don't you direct an episode or two? Like, that would be amazing.
You need to be on one of those series that you're on for several seasons, and then that's what happens. They're just like, hey, you want to direct one? And not too bad. And that gets you introduced. Plus you have that support system, because they're not going to let 100%. You do something that's going to go wrong.
Yeah, exactly. But in this day and age, I think everyone wears many hats. Like, I don't think I've met a single person who doesn't have a side hustle and a side hustle for their side hustle, right? So I feel the same way. I'm carving my path as an actor, and I treat that like a craft, and I treat it like I need to work on it every day. But I write, I look up directing classes, I working on stand-up, putting myself out there, right? Like, just, you kind of gotta
now you're definitely, if you're doing stand-up, you're putting yourself out there.
Oh yeah.
That's you got to be.
That's my next fear. I like to chase the fear. I do, and I'm like, and this is it. I'm like, okay, that's the next one. You can do improv, make stuff up from nothing, but now can you make up stuff from something? That's even harder in some ways. Yeah.
It always fascinates me with comedians, because they'll go out and work on material, and they don't know if it's going to be any good or not. But they just kind of take it and just keep working until they get that kind of whatever tight 10 or 15 minutes, and then they're good to go.
They get it. They do it so well that it feels like the stories are natural to them, that they're saying it for the first time. That's what I think is the hardest part. Is like, the best comedians make it seem like they didn't work on it, that this is their first time telling that story. Right. And you're like, how did you do that?
Yeah, how'd you do that? Because you get tired of it at some point.
Of course you must, or you must try to like play with it. Sometimes you're like, well, maybe I'm going to change the inflection on the punchline and just see how that works. Or maybe I'm going to change it up a little bit in the way and then they're like, nope. Like, some of the best comedians, like, word for word, every time, every inflection, every point has to be like the exact same every show. And that's a skill. That's a skill. So, absolutely.
Yeah. I would think that it will, in some ways, moving from being a stand-up comedian to acting, I could see that progression, because if you can do stand-up, you're doing some acting anyway. with that, and then moving into acting. But I think it'd be more difficult if you're already an actor trying to get into stand-up. I don't know why, but that's just how I feel about it. It seems like that would be a tougher path than the other one.
I think, well, I mean, I can speak for myself, which is when you're acting, you're not necessarily like you're revealing deep parts and vulnerable parts of yourself, but you're playing a character and you're trying to get into the mind of the character and the situation the character's in using your imagination. But as a comedian, you are presenting your thoughts, like it's your humor. And often even the stories are based on your life experiences, relationships you have, you know, and that is a vulnerability. I think it's different. Like it's scarier in some ways because because if it bombs, then you're like, oh my gosh, like that was me. That's not because of the lighting or the way
that was all me.
Marketed. That was just me. Like that's it. I have no one it's like when I do improv. You go in, you have a preconceived notion of how you think the scene is going to be. You start to do it. Somebody else gives you a different offer. And now all of a sudden there's dead air. The audience has lost you. And you're like, this is the most awkward 3 minutes of my life. Like, this is the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I wouldn't act anyway, because it just seems terrifying to me. But improv is even worse. I would hate to be in a situation where I might freeze up. Be like, nope.
Oh, yeah. but then that's the thing. The fight or flight response, or the addictive quality of it is that when you do get that laugh and you do feel free, or you did something and you're like, oh my gosh, that hit home, and then the crowd erupts with laughter. Like I eat that stuff up. Like that just feels amazing.
Well, I could see how that could be kind of addictive.
Yeah.
Once you get that good result, especially if you've been kind of working on it for a while, and then you get that first good result, I would definitely want to.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone should take an improv class, whether or not you perform in front of people or not. Doesn't matter. Just to take a class where you get to play, and you get to safely experience that fear of like, you're going to quote unquote fail, but it's not really failing, because I think the fact that you even did it is a huge win. A lot of people come away with either reduced anxiety or feeling more confident in public speaking. Or,
I can totally see that.
Like, or just being able to make like friends easier, social settings, just like, oh yeah, because we're improvising right now. This is an improvised conversation.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I could totally see how that would help you in social situations if you're an introvert or something with that. But just showing that you're able to have a conversation at random, you're proving you can do it. So maybe that alleviates some fear when you're in those social situations. So in some ways, one-on-one can be scarier than with a group.
Yeah. It depends on, who you are. But absolutely.
Yeah. If you weren't in the entertainment business, what would you be doing?
That's a great question. Does writing not count? Because I still want to write that book.
Writing kind of counts.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to get your
children. I'm not entertaining people at all. That's hard. Because even when I'm not in the entertainment industry, the career paths I've taken have always involved me with people in some way, shape, or form. So I'm a former youth worker working with kids, and
I could totally see that. I think you seem like you've got that type of kind of mentality or personality. I could totally see.
Yeah. I think I'd be a clinical psychologist. That's one thing that I was working towards. Or a cognitive science researcher, if we're talking about something that's like introverted a little bit. There's definitely a side of me that just likes to read article after article after article, and maybe I'd be working in the mental health. Okay, well, the ideal answer from an ideal world is I'd be an athlete. That would just be the dream.
But, me too. If that was on the table, I would take that.
I would take that. No offense to any actors out there, and knock on wood for the universe, I still want to be an actor, but yeah, that was the number one dream that I think anyone who plays sports thought. Like, I thought I was going to be a soccer player, or a basketball player, and then I didn't grow up higher, tall.
Yeah, so, I had that same problem. It was one of those that, like, there was a summer when I was in middle school that I was like, I think I'm going to be tall, and then I never grew after that.
Yeah, that was me. I was captain of my basketball team in grade 9, and I was arguably like the best player in school, or just like very good. And then I was like, this is it. And then grade 10, 11 happened, and all my friends started getting taller and taller. And then I, try out for the team, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good. But I'm not that tall. I can't dunk. What the heck? That's not fair. Like, and that's it. And then you're like, well, that's it. That dream is gone. And then you play, and you're in the States. Like, and I went down and I played with some, as a youth worker. I ran this program where we built a basketball program for underprivileged youth, and we got to take these kids out on tournaments and things like that. And I remember playing. At that point, I was in my like early 20s and playing with like 14-year-old kids, and I was like, oh my gosh, I thought I was good. No, like the skill level is,
isn't that amazing?
Yeah, like,
you know, like if you're in a high school, you might be the best person in your school.
Yeah,
but then you got to compete against, you know, other teams where they have the best person in their
exactly
school. And then if you get out of high school and get lucky enough to go to a college, especially a big college,
100%,
you know, it's a totally different level. And then if you turn pro, I mean, there's only a handful that are actually good enough for pro, but the difference in skill in those levels are just amazing.
Yeah, it's like a D League player in the NBA is still 100 times better than the best person you've probably played against.
That's right.
You know? And that person, and then LeBron James is 100 times better than that D League player. Like, you can't even imagine how good LeBron James is. Like, I can't even fathom it. Like, and I played, in my opinion, against like, you know, 6'7" guys who I thought were like amazing. And you're like, nope.
No,
Because
he'd make them look silly.
Exactly. I know. And then like the skill ceiling has just gone higher and higher. Like, Steph Curry's changed the game in a way where like the way,
I don't know that anybody's ever going to shoot that well again.
No, exactly. But now all the kids, like when I played with them, like that's all they're doing. They're taking 4-point shots. You know what I'm saying? Like,
they just keep going further and further back.
Yeah, I'm like, I couldn't even do 3-point shots like consistently because I was like hurling them, and now they're just like full body, like half court, like it's nothing. And I'm like,
and they hit a decent amount of
them. Yeah. That's what the NBA was like. I think a couple years ago, like, should we have a 4-point line? Like, what should we do? You know? Yeah.
Well, Adolyn, this has been terrific. I'm so glad we got it worked out. I think you're such a good actor.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Really looking forward to what you do next. I think it's just a matter of time. You'll probably land you that comedic role, either in a movie or on a comedy series.
I appreciate that.
We'd love that. We'd love to see you.
Yeah, and I'd love to be back and talk about that.
You have to come back. Whatever comes next, you got to come back. Give us an update on what's going on.
Thank you.
So in the meantime, where can we find this movie?
So it's still making the festival run, but hopefully it'll have a full premiere across the globe. Right now, it's going to the Regent Park Festival here in Toronto. It's going to make a couple more rounds in the States. I can't say right now. So yeah, that's the best way to look out for it. Just keep checking festivals. You can follow me on Instagram. I'm always updating where the film's at and some of the other projects that I'm working on. I have a couple more short films, another TV series that I'm on, and things like that.
Oh, that's awesome. What's the TV series?
It hasn't started shooting yet, but the working title is Potluck Ladies, and so that will be
Are you a potluck lady?
Oh, that remains to be seen. We'll have to watch it. And then I just and if you're in Canada, I also do a lot of plays and theater. That's really where I also started my career off, is on stage. And if you're in Toronto, come out to see some comedy.
Do you prefer being like on a stage, or do you prefer working on a set?
It depends on the set and the production. It's like you need both. Like I like fruits, I like vegetables, I like chocolate, and I like eating. Like, you need a bit of everything. And for me, that's the stage isn't a whole different beast in and of itself. And
that's one where you have to be good at the repetition. Where you're about to.
I do think the stage is incredible training for the rigor of acting. Like, you need stamina, you need to be fit for a certain level, you need to be able to project, you have to work on your breath work, and then you have to do that every single night for at least 2 weeks. Same show, same consistency all the time. And so it's great practice. Great practice when you go on the screen and they're like, we need to do this in 2 takes. Can you repeat exactly what you did? But now we're going on a wide, or you have to do the exact movements. And you're like, oh yes, okay. Yeah.
See, I would. There's no way I could do it. I would have a different.
You totally could. You played sports. It's like sports. Same thing. You got to practice that free throw over and over.
Right.
What's your ritual?
You practice.
What's your sport of choice? What was your sport of choice?
You know, when I was younger, it was baseball. That's all I thought about, baseball. But my dad was an all-state basketball player and a coach. So as I got older, it was more basketball. And I could shoot pretty well. I was just short, you know, and so you're limited. And I knew, you know, I'm limited to high school. There's not going to be a college thing. So my
impressive you played, because in the States, high school ball is still pretty high level.
It's like still pretty good. It's still pretty
scouts
good.
Still come out to that, right? So
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. But that was, I loved it. And, you know, I love playing baseball. I love playing basketball. I ran track. You know, I did all that stuff.
Exactly.
But it was one of those things, like a lot of people, I was good at a lot of things. I wasn't great at any of them.
Yeah, that's like me. That's like me. But you know, free throw line, you got your ritual. You have to do the same motion every time. I don't know if you pitched at all in baseball, but you know,
oh, Lord, no, I had terrible arm. That was, but and here was the funny part is I played shortstop most of my way through school. Eventually, my arm kind of got the best of me, and they moved me over to first base. But I played shortstop because I could move pretty good. But there was times to make up for my lack of arm. I was literally like 2-3 feet behind the pitcher. So if I caught it, I could probably get the ball over there in time. But you know, you miss a lot when you're that close. So eventually they moved me off. Shortstop.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
What was your position in soccer?
I played right wing.
Oh, very good.
Right mid mostly. So I was I could run up and down the field a lot. Yeah.
Well, you have to be able to with soccer.
Yeah.
You better be in good shape.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I played a lot of that, and then sometimes striker, but definitely not one, maybe the 2 or 3rd. So yeah.
Well, so last thing before we wrap up, you mentioned social media, but where can we find you on social media?
I'm mostly just on Instagram.
Yeah.
Right now. And that's mainly it. I don't usually use Twitter or anything like that, so I'm on it. But I think
that's the same. It's like you have to have it just to keep track of what's going on.
In some ways, but now everyone's moving to like new. What's the new Twitter going to be? That's what I'm waiting for. That's what I'm going to hop on.
Well, you know it'll come. Somebody's working on it right now.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Adolyn, you have to come back. We got to do this again. This has been a blast.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, hold on 1 second. So that was Adolyn Dar, really talented actor. If you haven't seen his work, go and check him out in The Expanse. That's my favorite, but he's been on Designated Survivor, who's on People of Earth, Good Sam, and then the DESI Standard Time Travel movie that's making the circuit now. The clips I've seen have been amazing. So definitely keep your eye out for that one. I think it's going to be just a blast, just a lot of fun. Thank you guys for tuning in again this week. If you're finding this for the first time, if you prefer to watch, our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Please subscribe. That would really help us out. You can find all 600 episodes, audio and video, on our website, meistercon.com. So definitely check us out there as well. It'll let you know what we have going on, as well as give you access to all of our 600 episodes. Thank you so much. Until next time, bye, everybody.